So welcome to another segment of our biology videos as we try to look at 2024 GCE question 1. It was saying that figure 1 below shows a generalized animal cell. So this is a generalized animal cell and those were the parts. Then A there says identify the parts labeled A, B and C. So they wanted you to actually identify the parts labeled A, B and C. Now if you notice there, A is actually pointing to the solution inside, so that is what we call as being the cytoplasm. And if you remember what the cytoplasm does, let me just give you some functions there. So when it comes to the cytoplasm, we can simply say site for all chemical activities. So all the chemical activities are simply going to be taking place inside of the cytoplasm. In fact, it is made that you are going to find proteins, sugars and salts dissolved in water. These are going to make up the jelly-like fluid that will be found there. Then B is pointing to the outer part, which is representing this, the cell membrane. So that is the cell membrane. So basically the function of the cell membrane, it allows what enters, or if you want, we can simply say controls, what enters and leaves the cell. Yeah, so because of this property of controlling what enters and leaves the cell, you are going to find that the cell membrane in most cases is said to be selectively. So we use sometimes the word selectively, but instead of using the word selectively, sometimes they may use the word partially, and instead of using the word partially, they may use the word semi, and they'll put a permeable. That's what we mean. So the cell membrane is selectively or partially or if you want, so you can use selectively permeable, partially permeable or semi-permeable. These are just one and the same thing because it controls what enters and leaves the cell. Then if you look at the part pointed at C, of course I'm just trying to remind you of the functions, but here they just told you identify, so they just wanted you to identify that. So the C part there is simply representing the nucleus. If you remember the function of the nucleus 1, we can simply say controls all cell activities. So all the activities that are taking place, it controls them. Yeah, any protein synthesis that is taking place, the nucleus does control them. Another one that I can give you on this one, we can simply say stores genetic material. So you're going to find that chromosomes are located in the nucleus. So genetic material, your DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, is actually stored in the nucleus. So that's what they wanted you to do when it comes to that. Let's come to the B part there. It says name 2 organelles present only in plant cells. So they want you to state 2 organelles. Now, when we talk about this word, when you hear this word organelle, an organelle is simply any membrane bound structure. So what 2 organelles present, are only present only in plant cells. So there are 2. Number 1, we can simply talk about the cell wall that is made up of cellulose. It helps to maintain the shape of the plant cell. It also helps to prevent damage being done to the cell. And this cell wall is made up of a fiber called cellulose that make it more flexible but a bit rigid. The other structure that you're going to find is what we call as being that is going to be different is the chloroplast. And remember, in the chloroplast, the function of the chloroplast is simply a site for photosynthesis. So that is what you remember. And this guy contains a green pigment called chlorophyll, and that helps to trap sunlight. So that's what you need to remember. So just these are the only 2 parts that are going to be found in a plant cell. Of course, to some extent in animal cells they are very small if they are present. The vacuole another person might have talked about, but these are the best options that you can give in the exam. C says explain the function of the part labeled B. Yeah, so the part labeled B is actually the, like I said, it is simply the cell membrane. So like we said, controls, you know, what enters. So it controls what enters and leaves the cell. So that's basically what you can talk about. Then the D says describe the effect. So I want you to describe the effect on the cell in figure 1, this figure here, if it is placed in an hypertonic solution. Now in the exam, you need to remember the 3 types of solutions to which the tissues of cells can be exposed to. If you remember, there's what we call an isotonic solution. You also have what we call as being an hypotonic solution, and you do have what we call as being an hypertonic solution. Examples of an hypotonic solution is pure water. So when you talk about pure water, it's an example. Hypertonic solution, we are simply talking about salt solution, sugar solution, and sucrose solution, hypertonic. In other words, an hypertonic solution is a solution whose concentration is higher than a cell. Now, the moment you place such type of a cell in this type of solution, hypertonic solution, what will start to happen is that any cell placed in an hypertonic solution will start to lose water. That's what is going to be happening. Now, if an animal cell starts to lose water, it simply means that it will start to shrink. Yeah, so it will start to shrink and form wrinkles, and it will lead to a condition called cell crenation. So here they wanted you just to explain, to describe what happens. So I can simply say that the cell loses, so we can say loses water by osmosis, and as a result starts to shrink and form wrinkles, a condition called cell crenation. So it will lead to a condition called cell crenation. So that's what you needed to explain, and nothing complicated. So please watch out for some more videos where I'm actually going to guide you on how you need to go about answering questions. And please, when they tell you things like describe, explain, you don't need to put them in bullet point form. That is actually wrong in biology. Try to paragraph your answers. Thank you so much for watching.